Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the exact process of creating a high converting pop-up form for your e-com brand so that you can capture as many potential customers as possible, make as many sales as possible, and retain long-term customers that you can sell to over and over again. I've used this to generate pop-up forms that convert as high as 20% for over 20 e-commerce brands across a ton of different niches. Let's jump straight into it. All right, so these are the essential elements that are required for a high converting pop-up form. The first thing we need is an email and SMS list set up. We want to establish dedicated lists for both your email and SMS subscribers to connect to your pop-up form. And it's really important that you have one master email list and one master SMS list. I see a lot of people making the mistake of putting all of their email and SMS subscribers into the same list, and we don't want to do that. Next, we need a compelling offer. You want to present a clear value proposition like a discount, free shipping, or exclusive content that makes subscribing worthwhile. Next up, we need on-brand design and copy. We want to maintain the visual consistency with your website using brand colors, fonts, and persuasive action-oriented language, especially when it comes to your call to action buttons. We're going to need to limit the amount of form fields that we have in our pop-up. So an example of what not to do and an example of a mistake that a lot of brands make is on one page of their form, they will request several pieces of information like someone's name, their birthday, their email. You only want to request one piece of information on each form field. The reason why is because with each additional piece of information that we request, it just adds more friction to the user experience. And all of a sudden, when you're offering 10% off in exchange for 3 pieces of information, it just becomes much less likely to convert. Next up, we have our targeting and behavior. So we want to ensure that the form displays to the right people at the right time. And then finally, we want the form to be optimized for both desktop and mobile viewers and make sure that it looks great on all device types. So these are the absolutely required elements that we need to have in our pop-up form. And I want to just give you a quick example of pop-up forms that my agency Dispatch has created so that you can see exactly what high-performing pop-up forms look like in action. First off, we have one of our clients, Holos, that sells overnight organic muesli. So let's take a look at their website and their pop-up form. Opening up their website, we can see that their pop-up form comes up right away. A mistake that I see a lot of brands make is they bury the offer in the body copy, or they don't even have it on the first page of their form. It's only on a secondary page. We want the offer to be the first thing that comes up. This actually works really well to convert as well, because instead of just asking for their email, we're actually gamifying it a little bit. If I click high in protein here, we'll now see that the action-oriented language we're using is unlock limited time offer. Here's another pro tip for you. You want to add in all of the benefits that they are going to experience when they sign up and then place their first order. So now we can see we have our input field. I can choose my language and then claim your welcome kit. Here's where we're signing up with SMS. We have our compliance language over here. And we're not just saying sign up for SMS. We're saying unlock exclusive rewards, and we're giving them an additional reason to actually go ahead and sign up. I can click join now. Finally, we have our success page. We can see it says, thank you, use code 20 off for 20% off. So our next client example is Feel Goods. When someone is scrolling the website, you're going to see they get the pop-up almost right away. The branding is very on point with the rest of the funnel. Whether you're coming from their ads or you're coming from organic social, what's just super important here is that it's one visual cohesive experience and that your pop-up form just feels like an extension of your website. And now this is just another type of form called a micro yes form. They have a micro yes, which is basically accepting, yes, I want 30% off. And then once they click that, they then go into the email sign up page, which as you can see, just has one step. So what actually makes a high converting pop-up form, and what should your analytics look like? If you're doing all of the basics right and you're following a top performing structure, you're doing everything in this video, you should be converting above 5%. A good conversion rate is anywhere between 7 to 9%. And then a great conversion rate is above 9%. What you're going to see in Klaviyo is going to look like this. You're going to be able to see the revenue that is being attributed to your form. Your form submit rate is going to be the number of people who are signing up to the first field in your pop-up form, which is usually going to be email, compared to the amount of people that are viewing the form. So you can see in this example, we've had 1.4K submits, which is 1.4K email addresses from 11,000 people who have viewed the form. And when you're consistently A/B testing and doing the right things, you should see an upward trend in terms of your form submit rate. Now, the other thing that Klaviyo is going to show you is the engagement rates on your pop-up form. What you're going to want to look at here is where people are dropping off at each step in the funnel. Essentially, on step 1, where we either have our micro yes or our zero-party data collection, that is where we can see 23% of people are either saying, yes, I want your discount, or answering the question that we have in our pop-up form, like we saw with Holos. Then on the next step of the form, where we're asking for their email address, we're getting 10% of people to sign up. And then on step 3, when we're asking for their phone number, we're collecting 4% 4% of people's phone numbers. This is actually a pretty healthy funnel, but here's where we can definitely address huge drop-off points. And then finally in Klaviyo, right under this report is desktop and mobile performance. We can actually see in this example, desktop is converting much lower than mobile. Mobile is converting at just under 13%, while desktop is converting at 5.46%. And this is absolutely something you'll want to keep an eye on to just try and understand, is there something wrong with how my form is displaying on desktop? And the last thing before we jump over to Klaviyo, I just want to walk you through the ideal top performing form structure that we have learned based off hundreds of A/B tests. On step 1, we want our micro yes step. We're either asking the question, do you want X% off? Do you want this free gift with purchase? Do you want whatever your brand's offer is, with a yes or no answer for user to submit? Or we want to use this micro yes step to collect zero-party data. Now on step 2, we have our email collection, a very clear headline that presents the offer. Again, copy will be very short, and then a button that submits the subscriber's email into your brand's main email list. Then we have our SMS collection step, because an SMS list is just a very valuable asset to have as you're building your brand. So ideally you have an additional incentive or just a different message in the headline that is more appealing to sign up for SMS when they've already gotten a discount from signing up for email. As an example, get an extra 5% when you sign up for SMS. And then that button's action should submit the subscriber's phone number into your brand's main SMS list. And then finally, we're going to have a success page that's going to let subscribers know that their code is on the way to their inbox, which is going to help improve your deliverability by encouraging them to open the first email that they get from you. Now that we covered everything that you need to have in your top performing pop-up form, let's actually go into Klaviyo and build it. All right, so you're going to log into Klaviyo and you're going to go to the sign up forms tab right over here. And then once you get here, you're going to click create form. And then you can either start with a template if you want one, or you can create a new form from scratch. For this example, we can use one that doesn't have an image. In our experience, these actually perform better because it lends itself to having more focus on the offer. We can call it first order discount, beige, and then you're going to want to put in your email subscriber list. You want one list for your email subscribers, and then you want another list for your SMS subscribers, which we'll see in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and click create form over here. We can start with desktop over here. When we click styles, you can choose if you want a full page form or if you want a pop-up form. This is a great thing to A/B test, but if we're starting with a pop-up form, what we like to do is select large for the width over here. You can see here we have our email opt-in step, but based on what we just looked at in terms of our top performing structure, before we ask for someone's email, we want this micro yes step in place. I'm going to call this our micro yes step. We can click clone over here, and then I'm going to drag the micro yes step to the beginning of the form. You can put in your brand's logo right over here. We're going to delete the email input. We're going to delete this text. And like you saw in our examples, you just want a really simple header that says, do you want 10% off your first order? You're going to want to input your brand's fonts over here, your brand's colors, make this aligned with your brand's website. Let me clean this up, and then we can delete this, make this as clear as possible. Just make it a very easy question for someone to say yes to. Where it says get 10% off here, we can just say yes or no thanks. Design-wise, this is because the yes button is just much more prominent than the no thanks. This no thanks button has a border. You can actually even remove the border if you want to. Once someone does click yes, it's going to show the next step of our form. Now, when they get to the email step, we can say instantly unlock 10% off your first order when you sign up for updates. We're going to remove the no thanks because we already have that on our micro yes step now. And we're just going to have one field here. Now that we have our email step in place, we can see the action is to submit the form, and then the list it's submitting to is the list we chose before. So you just want to make sure this is your email list. And then after submit, we just want to go to the next step. And the next step is going to be our SMS opt-in step. I'm just going to reiterate here that we want the branding to all be in line with your website's branding. And that means that we need the branding to be in line across the form as well. So we can see here, the font that's being used is Georgia with a size of 44. We don't want to use a different font over here. We can change this to Georgia, but obviously you'd want to change this to your brand's font. Here we can actually phrase this as want an extra 5% off. And here we can say sign up for text and get an additional 5% off your first order. Then we have our phone number input field. And then super important that you have your SMS compliance language in check. You're going to need to set up your default disclosure. We want to match the button style too. And then here, like we said, we want to use action-oriented language in our CTAs. We can simply remove the background of this button by just making this transparent so that someone can just say no thanks. Now, if someone clicks on unlock an extra 5%, they're going to go into our SMS subscribers list. They're going to get shown the next step, which is going to be our success success message. And if they click no thanks, it's simply going to close the form. Now, when it comes to your success message, you can make the decision based on your deliverability if you want to include your welcome code in the form or not. You can also A/B test this, see if it impacts your conversion rate. But ultimately, we suggest for most brands to not include the coupon code here for the simple reason that it does improve your deliverability if the first email you're sending to this new subscriber results in them going to open it to get their discount, which they're obviously heavily incentivized to do. So in this case, what we could do is say great call, and we can just change this from apply this coupon to go to your inbox to find your code. The other thing here though is because they got to this success step, we know that they filled out their SMS information. So we're gonna say check your text, your code for 15% off. Your first order is on the way. So now we have our pop-up form, which is absolutely optimized to convert. This pop-up form would probably see a minimum of a 7% conversion rate before any A/B tests are being done. In terms of the targeting and behavior, we typically see top performance when the form is shown immediately, but you can test this because every customer demo is different. The frequency you can set to 5. We want to make sure that this is displayed on both desktop and mobile. You can uncheck these buttons, click outside the form to close so that no one is closing it accidentally. Then in terms of targeting, we don't want to show this to existing Klaviyo profiles. So if someone comes back to the website and Klaviyo identifies them as an existing profile, then we don't need to show it to them again. And then you can definitely exclude these from your cart page. And then UTM parameters, if you were running any ads that you wanted this to show on locations, if you don't want to show this to anyone, or you only want to show it to people in certain locations. And then cart contents, this is really only for specific forms. Now, before we wrap up, super important that we check to make sure this looks good on mobile. If you did want to A/B test having an image on the side, you could click create A/B test. And then what you could do is just on one of those versions, check off left image. And now what you'll have is the ability to just bring in a picture of one of your products. Now you have another version of the form that you could test with that image to see if it increases your conversion rate. So once you're done and you're ready to publish your form, all you're going to have to do is click on publish, and that will turn this from draft to live in order to then go and review your analytics, and just click analytics and you'll have all of the analytics that we reviewed before right over here. And now that you have your own high converting pop-up form and you have a bunch of new subscribers that are coming into your list, you're going to want to make sure that you have the right flows in place in order to convert these new subscribers and make the most out of your email marketing efforts. So click here to go to the next video where I show you all of the flows that you actually need to set up in order to actually maximize the revenue that's coming from your email list, like your welcome series, your abandoned cart flow, your browse abandonment flow, and 4 of the most critical flows that you need to have in place to automatically generate revenue from your growing email list and effortlessly add revenue to your e-com brand month over month. I'll see you there.